What got done in Austin? It's September 4th, 2025, and these are your headlines. The Texas House and Senate have now finally adjourned sine die, meaning that officially ends the second special session of the summer that was called by Governor Greg Abbott. Now, this session followed a chaotic first special session earlier this summer that saw House Democrats flee the state to block a congressional redistricting bill. Seems like a million years ago, right? When lawmakers eventually returned for the second 30-day session, Republicans quickly pushed the redistricting plan through and sent it to Governor Abbott's desk for his signature, which he did last week. Along the way, lawmakers also grappled with how to handle future quorum breaks. In the final hours of the session last night, the House approved a new internal rule imposing stiffer penalties on members who skip town, including bigger fines, the loss of committee leadership positions, cuts to office budgets, and reductions in seniority. They didn't do anything, though, for the members who fled this year. Beyond redistricting, Governor Abbott placed several other issues on the agenda. Lawmakers delivered on a handful of his priorities, passing bills to crack down on mail-order abortion drugs, enacting the Women's Privacy Act to restrict men from women's spaces, restoring the Attorney General's authority to prosecute election fraud, as well as improving new flood control and emergency alert measures after the deadly flooding in central Texas this summer. Still, some major items fell short. A ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying once again stalled in the House. Property tax relief collapsed, and negotiations between the House and Senate and proposed restrictions on THC products never reached a final vote. With adjournment, Governor Abbott must now decide whether or not to call lawmakers back again to resolve those issues or, which seems more likely, leave them for another fight in 2027. Attorney General Ken Paxton is pressing forward with his effort to require Texas schools to display the Ten Commandments, despite a federal injunction that has partially blocked the new law. Attorney General Paxton has appealed that ruling, asking the Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit to hear the case en banc, that is, before all active judges rather than just a 3-judge panel. His office argues that Texas's law should be considered alongside a nearly identical case from Louisiana to prevent conflicting legal outcomes within the same circuit. The federal injunction issued by Judge Fred Beery temporarily blocks enforcement in 11 districts, including Austin, Houston, Plano, and Fort Bend ISDs. Beery found the law likely violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, but Paxton has argued the court relies on outdated precedent. He points instead to a 2022 Supreme Court ruling that shifted standards towards history and tradition, saying that religious displays have long been a part of American life. Attorney General Paxton insists the Ten Commandments represent a core ethical foundation of U.S. law and has warned school districts not named in the lawsuit that they are still expected to comply with the law, which took effect September 1st. The Fifth Circuit's decision could set a national precedent on religious displays in public schools.
Howdy, folks. It's Chris Salcedo from the Salcedo Storm podcast. You might know me from my TV show on Newsmax or my radio show on AM 700 KSEV in Houston. As a veteran broadcaster, author, and conservative political analyst, I've teamed up with Texas Scorecard to take a no-nonsense approach to the toughest questions Americans are wrestling with every day. Join me on the Salcedo Storm podcast, where I challenge the status quo and bring you fresh perspectives on the national, state, and cultural news. Tune in weekdays, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Federal agents have announced the largest methamphetamine precursor seizure in U.S. history after uncovering more than 300,000 kilos of chemicals at the Port of Houston, allegedly bound for the Sinaloa Cartel. Homeland Security investigators said the shipment originated in China and was headed to cartel-controlled labs in Mexico. Authorities estimate it could have produced 190,000 kilograms of methamphetamine, worth nearly $569 million. Now, for comparison, U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized just under 79,000 kilos of meth along the entire southwest border in 2024. The U.S. Attorney's Office secured the seizure under terrorism forfeiture laws, citing the Sinaloa Cartel's recent designation as a foreign terrorist organization. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro called the bust the largest seizure of its kind in U.S. history, saying the terrorist designation has given federal prosecutors sharper tools to fight cartels. For more of today's stories, go to TexasScorecard.com.